Welcome back to this week's guidance for the Our Raw Material Arena. It is conflict week, and the conflict pillar is a physical pillar. It is the second of the physical pillars. We start with ignorance, how we process and handle what we don't know, and then how we act in reaction to what we don't know. Conflict falls in the middle. If you paid attention to last week's pillar, you know that a values list will help you identify what's important to you and therefore know what it is to fight for or what's worth fighting for. Otherwise, you'll find yourself in arguments that really are unnecessary or unproductive or aren't going to do anything to help you, maybe even make things worse. So when we approach the conflict pillar, our biggest tool is our breath. The thing that we can do the best in conflict is to make sure that we are breathing and that we are clear-headed and reasonable. As soon as the reason leaves the argument, as soon as we get heated or emotional, we are now reacting without intention. We are now reacting in what is probably just going to be disruptive and likely something we'll have to come back and apologize for later, even if we were in the right. And that's where things get really complicated, because if we don't learn to represent ourselves and our own interests with a clear voice, we are going to have a very hard time being heard, period. And if we can't get clear in our minds, in our bodies, with that breath that I was talking about, we're going to have a difficult time finding the space to hear what somebody else's position is, take it in, and adjust ours. Because a lot of times we don't feel like we should have to adjust ours because we're right. I mean, obviously, we all walk around believing, for the most part, that we're right. If we don't, we have been compromised in some way by someone who has told us, our opinion doesn't matter. And when we start to question whether we even are our own authority, that's more like an internal conflict. So we are either dealing with an internal conflict, a conflict with another person or a group, or a societal conflict. There is no way as a human being we are avoiding at least one of those three. Probably we're dealing with all of them at the same time. So again, breath, exhale. That is how we move through conflict. It's something that we should all probably philosophically understand from a conflict base level. No matter how hard we try, no matter what our intentions are, we will hurt someone else's feelings. We will cause them pain. And if we stand in defense of having done that, we take away our opportunity to resolve it. What we do is reinforce in the other person's physical body that we aren't willing to take responsibility for our part, even if it wasn't intentional. Sometimes that exchange in conflict of noticing what the other person or what the other group needs versus what we need it takes so much finesse. And if we are clear with ourselves, that finesse is available. If we're not, we're emotionally reactive, and like I said, it's a whole different ball game. So we need to maintain our integral connection to the things that matter. Not just in the moment, but the things that mattered this morning before we entered into conflict, or last week before this came up. And all of that is situational. It just shows how we have to be able to adjust on the fly and stay present with what matters and weigh that against the value of what matters to someone else. As you go through this week, pay attention to how often you are pushing for your own agenda without thinking through what somebody else might actually need from you. And if you don't run into any conflict there, I mean, how cool is that? But look for any spaces where you are kind of making sure you get your way without fully checking who you might be running roughshod over as you do it. And if there's any way to check in with those people and make sure you can help them along your way, do what you can to hold that space, because all conflict is necessary and important. And honestly, working through it is a creative endeavor. So when we become conflict avoidant, or when we become so polarized that we see conflict everywhere, we are not as available to engage in an actual discourse that would move us to a place beyond the conflict. I'll be back next week to talk about intention, all of the creative thoughts that we make from our emotional, conflict, turmoil. Whatever gets stirred up in us, good or bad, comes through with intention. And what do we do with all of those intentions? We certainly can't meet them all. Come back next week and we will have a look at the best ways to handle multiple intentions on top of each other over and over and over again. It's actually pretty cool. See you next week.